radio station.
It's time for the Chips and Salsa Show.
The only show about Latinos for Latinos. And did we mention Latinos?
It's the Latísima.
Latinos come in all flavors, shapes, and sizes. You don't have to be Latino to enjoy chips and salsa.
Everybody loves chips and salsa.
Welcome to another edition of the Chips and Salsa Show. It's Tuesday, 4 p.m. We are here every Tuesday. I'm Alice Lara, noticeably absent if you're watching us on Facebook or somewhere else, or the Central City Radio app. Download that free. Is my partner in radio crime, and that's Don Jorge. But in his place, I have such a surprise for you. One of the original chipsters, one of the original founders of the Chips and Salsa Show. In fact, he came up with the name, the Chips and Salsa Show. And that is my good friend, Martin Gonzalez. We have him by phone. Welcome, Martin.
Hi, Alice. How are you?
I'm great. I'm wonderful.
It's been a long time, hasn't it?
Oh, man. It sure has. It really has. So I should explain to the audience that you are en route. You'll be here in a few minutes, and we'll have you actually...
Yeah, I'm near the airport right now.
Okay, well...
Going up on the 51.
Be careful. Are you wearing your mask?
No. Yeah, let's not go there. But, no, definitely not wearing my mask, but looking forward to being with you live there at our beautiful studios there at 24th Street in Camelback. So posh, Alice. So posh.
Well, we try. You got to talk to Julian Allison about that, founder, creator of Central City Radio. And we are going to have, and we'll talk to him in just a few minutes, we have a candidate who's running for the City Council of Mesa, and that's David Miles. We'll go ahead and welcome you to the microphone right now.
Well, thank you very much. And I got to say, I was super close to making some fresh guac to bring to the show.
Oh, you should have.
I considered it, but my truck is actually down, and it doesn't transport so well on a motorcycle.
Yeah, he rode his motorcycle here, but, we like to guac on here. So next time. Okay,
right.
David?
Next time.
We'll hold you to it. Let's remember that, okay, Marty?
I also didn't think that crunching on chips in front of a microphone would play really well to the listeners.
Yeah. Well,
there's always that.
They've heard it all. Been following us. They've heard it all. So real quick, I just want to say that I wanted to wish, there's a birthday, and it's my nephew Chris Lara, and I don't know if you remember my nephew Chris, but he's one of the voices of the rejoiners. Yeah, because and now it's time for the Chips and Salsa Show, because he's got that deep voice like that. And happy birthday, Chris! His birthday was the 17th of July, so we want to wish him
happy birthday, Chris!
Feliz cumpleaños. Do you have any birthdays you'd like to announce, Martin?
Mine is coming up on the 22nd of August.
Oh my goodness! Well, you know what? We're gonna have to make sure we harass you about that one, right?
You're gonna have to cut me in half and count the rings, because I won't tell you how old I am. But
well, you know what, George?
Maybe one of those tree tests will do.
George and I have decided. I think we're just gonna start going backwards. We like that plan.
No, I hear you.
We like that plan.
I'm all about backwards, or at least staying in like one place, like 60, and I'm done.
There you go. I like that.
That might be tough these days, because if you're at all a public figure, you probably have a Wikipedia entry. So if you're going to go backwards, you're going to have to remember to go on there and change that every now and again, the year.
That's a good tip, David. Thank you so much.
Or you could change your party.
I forgot about that.
Martin, you could change your party affiliation, then that way you can get away with whatever.
Just identify it.
Well, then it wouldn't matter, right? Because, if you take out reason and accountability, you have exactly the polar opposite of what I am.
That's true. That's true, Martin. It really is. I'm so thrilled to have you back, because we haven't been able to have you on for a while, so we're so excited to have you on. I just want to mention a couple announcements, because that way when you get into the studio, we can totally focus on David Miles and his campaign. But we do have...
That'd be great.
Yes, David Miles. And we do have a happy hour coming up, and that's going to be brought to you by my Greater Phoenix Republican Women. And I know you guys didn't get to go, Martin, but we had a fabulous, fabulous coffee with Carrie Lake this last Saturday. That was awesome. And Carrie Lake happens to be running for governor. But this happy hour...
What was one of the takeaways that you got from that?
You know what? And in fairness... she's not our only Republican candidate for governor. And so here at the Chips and Salsa Show, we plan and we invite them all. They're all welcome here in our format. But she did do a little interview for us that we're getting ready to upload and have it on there. She was very upfront. Here's a cool thing, and you would be so interested in this. You probably already know this, but she talked about media, obviously, and she said now, like 1 percentage point of the media here in Phoenix. She threw out the question, like, okay, how many people do you think listen to the local news? What percentage? Blah blah blah. And I may not get it exactly right, but I'm going to come pretty close. And I believe what she said was about 18,000 listeners is equivalent to a 1 percentage point. And
18,000 listeners of what?
Or viewers of
like on
TV
television?
Station. Correct. So she said that she asked, I believe it was about Channel 12, and she said they had a 0.3%. So that means what? 6,000 that are actually viewing. And I mean, people are just not watching local news, and with good reason, because it's hard to rely on them. And that was fascinating. And so, of course, she can handle that because that was her prior experience. And I know you come from news.
I worked in television news for many years, and at KTVK, Channel 3, and ABC 15 as a weather anchor reporter. And I can tell you, it varies according to Nielsen numbers. Who's up and who's down. The problem is we're on a 24-hour news cycle, and television still operates on a more traditional 5, 6, and 10 o'clock news. And so that's really inconvenient for most people. And I think that's part of the decline, besides the bias and the stories that never get told. But that would be my take on it.
Yeah, well, that's a good take, and you're the best person to ask. So she had a lot of stuff. The great thing is she was willing to talk to people and answer questions, and afterwards, I always liked that. She is right there with the people. We took a lot of photos, and I've known her for quite a while, so it was all good. But she, I believe, will be going to this happy hour. She's going to try to make it, and that's going to be on August 20th. It's the Greater Phoenix Republican Women. We're putting it on, and that's from 4 to 7. It's going to be at Gallagher Sports Grill, 3220 East Baseline. So that's basically 32nd Street and Baseline. And it's only going to be $7 for if you belong to our club, and it's $10 for non-members. So we'll be giving you more information on that. And if you're a candidate, we welcome all the candidates to come and want to make sure that you check in properly so you get your time at the mic. And Martin, I hope you and your lovely wife can make it, because we would love to have you there.
You're very kind. Thank you for the offer and invitation.
And the other announcement, of course, we know that President Trump will be in Phoenix on the 24th. Ta-da!
Of August or July?
July. He's coming. July.
Right
That's next week, right?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I just wanted to be clear.
Well, we're the 20th already, so the 24th is coming up. So 20, that's this weekend.
It's this weekend, yeah.
Yeah, right. Are you going to go, David?
I'm going to try to. I also have a job, though, that makes it tough.
Those darn jobs get in the way.
That whole paying bills thing.
Don't they, Alice? They do.
They do. They really do. I don't know if I'm going to be able to make it. It's like a downtown thing. So if you haven't already, look into that. I think it's free, but you do need to RSVP because you have to get your name on the list. But, he's making the rounds, and man, I try to catch him every time. He's you talk about information getting out there. Have you been watching any of those speeches and presentations he's done, Martin?
I have, and I'm a bit confused because on the one hand, I think he's running for office again, and I wouldn't begrudge him that. But at the same time, I'm wondering if he's not more willing to prop somebody else up for the office of presidency, and then him advance his other desires, like having his own news network.
Yeah, and you know what? It wouldn't surprise me because I think President Trump is all about strategy with his business background. I think those are two very good points. All right, well, we're going to wrap it up for this segment. I'm going to go to commercial break. Hopefully you're getting close and you can just pop on in here, Martin.
I'm coming up on Indian school in the 51. So.
Oh, excellent. All right, well, I'm sure you will be. All right, so please stay with us for the Chips and Salsa Show. Alice Slada here with...
David
Martin Gonzalez.
Oops, okay, and also, I'm sorry, David.
David Miles.
I'll need to train you that I can need to point to you when it's your turn. Okay, it's all good. All right, so stay with us.
David, sorry about that, David.
For more of the Chips and Salsa Show here on Central City Radio, Talk Central Phoenix. Don't go away, we got more to guac on.
Well, Valley's home for podcasts. Talk Central Phoenix. Get the app on iTunes or Google Play. Talk Central Phoenix.
And now back for more chips and salsa.
Well, sir, while I may not agree with what you say, I'll defend to the death your right to say it.
And we are back. Welcome to the second segment of the Chips and Salsa Show here on Central City Radio, Talk Central Phoenix. I'm Alice Lara, and usually here with me is my partner in radio crime, Don Jorge, but he had to work today. He's doing the soccer game security. I should maybe have said that. I don't know. But we do have Martin Gonzalez going to be filling in, and he's making his way to the studio right now, probably parking. I'm going to walk up here, so when you see him just slip in next to me, that's who that is, Martin Gonzalez. But our special guest for today, he's going to stay the whole hour with us, is our new Republican friend, David Miles. Welcome.
Thank you. It's good to be here.
We're happy to have you, and David is running for Mesa City Council, and that's District 5, correct?
Yes, correct.
All right. David, I'm going to take a minute here and just tell the people a little bit about you and, what we do here with the Chips and Salsa Show, because we are liberty-loving Latinos, and we happen to be Republicans. I was a former Democrat, and so was George, and I cannot remember if Martin was. But we're here really to bust the myth, and there's a lot of Latinos that are Republicans and conservatives, so we're so happy to have you on. All right, so you were born and raised in Arizona, a native of Arizona. Wow, that's points for you there. David Miles has served his country and his community throughout his life. Boy Scouts to the Marines. Once a Marine, always a Marine, right?
Of course.
Thank you for your service, sir.
Yep.
Very much.
You're
to
welcome.
law enforcement. Service is in David's blood and upbringing. He will bring that same drive to his campaign for Mesa City Council. You're born in Yuma.
I was. But about 2 years later, my parents decided to move to Mesa, so I thought I'd go with them.
Oh, yeah.
So, it seemed like a good
And they
idea at
brought
the
you
time.
on. So pretty much you grown up raised in Mesa.
Raised in Mesa. I have no memories of Yuma.
Oh, wow. So you've seen it. And look, as soon as we said Mesa, here comes the Mesa man. Come on in, Martin. Martin from Mesa.
Alice, it's so wonderful to see you.
I know.
Let me get closer to
Look
the mic.
at you,
Let me give you a great
dressed
big hug.
up.
Mwah. Besitos. David, right?
Yes, sir.
I'm Martin Gonzalez. It's a pleasure to meet you.
You too.
Excellent. Wonderful.
Glad you could be here. And can I just say thank you to all the people who follow Chips and Salsa, all those who have been supporting us throughout the years. It's amazing how this continues to grow and people listen and want to be a part of it. And I just want to express my gratitude and on my behalf, and I know on yours and George and Julian's that this show is doing so well and continues to grow. So thank you, everyone.
Well, I appreciate that. Thank you. And I just want to tell the audience, I started to tell them when we had you on a few minutes ago, Martin actually came up with the name for the Chips and Salsa Show, and I started to tell David a little bit about this. And, we were going to do this. We're like, burrito banter, taco talk, tortilla talk. And we were having lunch. And Martin says, what about chips and salsa? Everybody loves chips and salsa, and we've always had like a relaxed manner. So you're sitting around talking to people like you're having chips and salsa. So Martin's the one that came up with it. He always has these great ideas, and it's really been great. And it's true. Everybody loves chips and salsa.
Well, since it is chips.
Well, you're nice to say.
Since it is chips and salsa as a co-host show, who's chips and who's salsa? That's the big question.
I like to be salsa.
All right.
Well, that's a good question. I know we're deviating off the course here a little bit, but we never really assigned chips and salsa to anyone because at the time that we created the show, there was a fourth person.
Right.
And so there were four of us in the studio with the show. And so but later, as things have changed, I would say right now the heart of Chips and Salsa is you and George, right? Wouldn't you say?
Yes, pretty much it's George and I, and we let the chips fall where they may. So
I like it.
Both, chips and salsa, right? But we still have fun, and that's kind of the purpose of our show. We've always been that way, and we're just really excited. You are super blessed because in addition to Martin being from Mesa and one of the original members, he is a fantastic media man.
Wonderful.
So this is going to be a really great interview. And if those of you that are watching or listening to us, tell your friends. And then if you miss any part of this, of course, you can go back on the Central City Radio app, listen again, or go to the YouTube once it's uploaded. So no worries there, or our Facebook site, of course. But it's going to be really good. So I was just telling the audience a little bit about David, how he's a Marine, because, once a Marine, always a Marine, right?
That's right.
Right, and we're thanking him for his service. He's an Arizona native.
Hoorah!
Yeah.
Hoorah.
By the way.
I had to learn how to say you're welcome for that because it was an awkward thing for years. Thank you for service. Like,
Mm-hmm.
I had to actually train myself, and sometimes I still stumble over it. But I had to train myself to actually say you're welcome, because what do you say other than just say you're welcome? It was always a weird thing to me, and I think for any of you thanking other service members for their service, when you get an awkward response, that's just because they have no idea how to respond to that. It's an awkward thing. I don't know why, but it is. I like being thanked for my service, but it's awkward to respond. It's one of those weird things.
Then most are so humble and sometimes surprised. And really, you kind of hear it so much, and people just kind of say it because they think they have to, but we really mean it. I mean, really here, we mean it, and we have a military moment. So this is another double whammy for us, because we try to have people on here that have served in the military and just focus on them, because we do not give enough glory and attention to our guys and gals that have served. So thank you again. Very much. Salute.
So, okay, you're in the Marines, and I read about that on your website.
Okay.
On your About page, that you served in the military, and that you grew up here in Arizona. And
born and raised.
Now, I love how you said you were born in 1978. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Oh my
and
gosh.
That, I don't...
You're your baby.
He said, "Oh, baby." Well, it's all relative, because we got like 20 miles on you. But anyway... and that you you moved with your parents, but there was like a little funny note in there, like how with your consent or something. Can you see that on there? I thought that was funny.
I'm just gonna throw this out there for anyone trying to follow behind. The website they're talking about is David Miles, the number 4az.org. All right, so davidmiles4az.org.
And it's miles like the actual
miles like the
M-I-L-E-S.
distance. That's how I always say it instead of spelling, I say miles like the distance.
There you go.
Very good.
And willing to go the distance, right?
Anyway, there's a ton of great stuff to learn from the website. I enjoyed reading about the fact that not only did you serve in the Marines, but also that you served in law enforcement in Oregon. I won't count that against him, will you?
It was Southern Oregon. I wasn't up there with the crazy enough.
Right?
Yeah, right.
Okay.
Not
it was
Portland.
It was the part that actually seriously wants to break away from Oregon, join very northern California, and be a new state. That nobody around there is thrilled with the governor and the way that they're taking the state. So.
And then also you were volunteered as a reserve police officer with Phoenix, too.
Phoenix, Oregon.
Oh, Phoenix, Oregon. Oh, gosh,
Yeah,
I didn't
that
know.
was-
You're better than I am.
Yeah,
Because you read it
So
ahead
I
of time.
started out. That was I started out in law enforcement as a reserve police officer. So it's a volunteer position, but it's still a sworn officer. You still carry a gun, write tickets, all that stuff.
Guns.
That's
We'll
right.
have to get into that topic, yes.
Absolutely.
I don't know if Alice mentioned this, but I am the founder and executive editor of the Firearms Channel. So what you have in me, David, is a pro-gun rights advocate.
Let me add a little something. In the Marine Corps, my job was as an armorer. So I was the gun doctor. When the guns broke, I fixed them.
Wow.
I can still do that.
Nice.
So you've also got a pro-Second Amendment advocate in me.
Excellent.
We did
Excellent.
a little fist
Yeah, you
bump
did a little
there.
fist bump? Right on. That's good. All righty. So let's see. I want to this is interesting. David rewrote over 20 city ordinances and submitted his recommended changes to the city council for review and consideration. All of the rewrites were passed by the city council without alteration or exception. So you went on to handle local cases. We're talking about the sheriff's office here. I didn't say that because I'm just kind of reading and listening at the same time.
I was assigned to a small town, and in order to do policing in a small town, I had to find out what ordinances I was going to be enforcing, because they don't teach that in the school and in academy type stuff. It's all state law. But so I went and opened up the ordinances, and they were a mess. They were outdated, badly written, just in such a way that I couldn't really enforce any of them, because it would have left the city open for liability because of how badly it was written. And there were some places where there would be a chapter and then nothing in it. So it'd be like they intended to have something there, and then they just forgot to actually write ordinances and shove them in there. So I rewrote all the ordinances, and I submitted them and be like, hey, if this is what you're going for, go with this. Otherwise, talk about it, change whatever you need to. But this is my recommendation. And they went through and took it all.
That's pretty impressive. It really is.
I was one of the I think it's exceedingly rare to be called upon to enforce laws that you actually wrote.
I wanted to ask you, David, with regards to these ordinances, and I'll ask you two questions. One, is there one that's like the feather in your cap that you're particularly proud of? And two, maybe this is the question I want you to answer first, is do you have a legal background, or was this just practical application of the law as you understood it to have these ordinances go through?
Well, kind of a combination of a lot of those things. So in the Marine Corps, as a company armorer for a few different companies, I had personally rewritten standard operating procedures for those. I had to be very familiar with all the Marine coordinators and OPNAVs and just a lot of different orders and directives, because that job is really easy to mess up and go to jail in. So I had to know them backwards and forwards. So through that, I got very used to kind of legalese speech. And then I got a degree in criminal justice. I graduated with honors for that, and with my time in law enforcement. So I didn't have a law degree, so to speak, but it was a degree that focused on law, as criminal justice is. So I got in there. Now, I don't have really one that's a feather in my cap, because I wasn't there as a legislator. I was there as the executive branch, an enforcer of them. And I wasn't there to advocate for or against any laws, and I was being very careful to look at what was there, the ordinance that were there, try to gather what I think they were going for, and say, if you write it like this, I can actually do that. So it wasn't me really creating law. It was more fixing, except for the chapter that was non-existent on public nudity. They had a chapter heading public nudity, and then it went to the next chapter with nothing there, so it wasn't actually illegal in that town.
Wow. Well, I think that's really, that's good. You were already out in the field. You had experienced some of the stuff, so you were a good person to do this. But to actually be able to go in there and do the technical writing of it, it doesn't often happen. It's like, you always want to. My husband says, "Oh, these engineers sometimes, because they're not in it. They create stuff, but they don't use the equipment or whatever." So we're coming up on a break real quick,
Okay.
But we got lots to talk about with David Miles, who is running for the city council in the big city of Mesa, Arizona, and it is a big city. So even if you're watching somewhere else, you might know somebody in the area who might be able to vote for him or know somebody. So, spread the word. I'm Alice Lara, and I'm here with
Martin Gonzalez.
And our special guest,
David Miles.
Great. And we'll be back here on the Chips and Salsa Show on Central City Radio, Talk Central Phoenix. Don't go away. We got much more to guac about.
This is the Valley's News Talk and Podcast. Talk Central Phoenix, a Central City radio station.
Okay. That's 10,000 people have died. But you know what they're also telling you? Overestimated the number of deaths.
Then you are home. The Valley's News Talk and Podcast. Talk Central Phoenix.
Okay, so I'm really confused because, my dad's Latino and my mom is white. So does that mean I can only listen to, half of Chips and Salsa?
That's the smartest thing I've ever heard anyone say about anything.
Hello and welcome back to the Chips and Salsa Show. Wow, that feels good to stretch a little bit like that with me, Martin Gonzalez, and the leader of the band, Alice Lara. How you doing?
Hola.
Hola. And our special guest this afternoon is Dave Miles, who is running for Mesa City Council. And I'm particularly interested because I live in Mesa.
You've lived there quite a while, Mart, so you know the ropes, right? You know a lot about Mesa.
Yeah, I was, I would, not to tell you the whole story, but I have lived in Mesa for sure 30 years.
Wow.
Literally from Dobson Road, Dobson and Baseline, all the way to Chrisman and Baseline.
Man. And I have to use this pun. So you could be under the gun with it. I'm sorry.
No.
I know we're big.
It's not going to get pretty after this.
Yeah, right. So Mesa is a big, giant city now for most of you. I think it's probably. Do you think it's the second largest city in the state?
No, actually, Mesa is the third largest city. Phoenix is first, Tucson is second, and then Mesa. Yeah. That's the third largest city, and actually, Mesa is the 35th largest city in the United States.
Oh my goodness!
Little FYI.
I didn't even know that part.
It's still growing too.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Because everybody's moving to Arizona.
Well, especially the district that you would like to represent, David.
Yeah, that's the Northeast District, and there's a lot of open land and development going on out there. There's room to grow, is the point out there. Whether it's housing developments, whether it's new businesses, manufacturing coming in, there's a lot of room to grow out of the northeastern part of Arizona, which is District 5. And that's what we really want to drive, to make sure that growth goes in the right direction and goes as uninhibited by the heavy hand of government as we can, in order to encourage it. Because businesses, they have choices. They can choose to go to one city or the other. They're going to make those choices based on how inviting the city is. And that's what we've got to do, is make sure that we're opening up to the business to come in, and they will employ our people. And hey, if everyone has jobs and or a business, I'm happy in my city.
You know, it's interesting. You're talking about economy and the economy of living in Mesa. The cost of living now, $58,000 a year. If you have 2 minimum wage jobs in a household, you still literally could not afford to live in Mesa.
Yeah.
Because the way the government sees it is that 1/3 of your total income has to go to housing. If you, rents in Mesa can vary from, $1,000 to $3,000, $4,000, depending on the size of the house. But you can't do it on 2 minimum wage jobs. And so it's exciting to hear about David talk about how there are going to be more jobs, hopefully more higher paying jobs. Can you speak to that?
Yes. Manufacturing, skilled labor is huge. And when I say skilled labor, I'm not just talking about somebody went to electrician school or plumbing school. A lot of times, skilled labor is someone that starts in a company doing it, and they teach them to do a thing, to build a product that's for that company, and they learn to do it maybe with no background or little background or just somewhat related background, and then they become very skilled at doing that thing, and their wages go up because the company can't afford to lose them at that point. They're the ones who know how to do it. So skilled labor is a huge thing. Manufacturing tends to have much better wages than a lot of the other, than retail, than fast food or anything like that is going to be in that manufacturing. We've got Boeing out there right in my district. Their wages are great, and they should be. They're making Apache helicopters right there in Mesa for our military. We want to make sure that we're paying people to do good jobs so that we can keep those birds in the air.
We were talking about the actual election. This is interesting to me. So our primary in Arizona is next year,
August 2nd. Yep.
But that's actually also when your election will be too.
Yes.
Explain to the audience how that will work.
So with Mesa City Council elections, we run for the election in August 2nd. Now it's what's known as a nonpartisan election, which means each party does not put forward a candidate. That doesn't mean that the candidates aren't partisan. Everyone knows what everyone is. But so everybody who wants to run for any given seat, such as District 5 Mesa City Council, will run on August 2nd. If one candidate gets 50% plus one vote, then the election's done. There is no November 2nd election. They're the next city councilor in January when it comes around. If nobody gets that 50%, then the top 2 run against each other November 2nd. So they just push everyone else out. Nobody else gets to try anymore. They just take the top 2. They run, and it's basically a runoff election November 2nd. But it has potential to be done August 2nd.
And at this point, you were saying there isn't anyone else that's filed?
No, not yet. It's still really early. And also there's some slight redistricting happening within the Mesa districts. It's not going to be massive. There's just movement. Like District 6 got a lot more population than any of the other districts. So they're going to shrink a little bit land-wise, and the other districts are going to pick a little up. So there's going to be some slight movement of the edges, basically.
Oh, could you move in his district possibly, I wonder, since you're close?
I'm literally across the street from your district.
You might end up being my district.
I am in a neighborhood that's just south of Maine and just east. Well, I'm not sure exactly the boundaries, but I'm trying to think off my head. But I literally live off of Greenfield in Maine, just to give you an idea.
So, for a projection on what might happen, if you live west of Greenfield, you might end up in District 3. But
I'm not sure which one. I think I'm in District 2
they
right
might
now, but I'm not
they
sure.
might move the boundaries up to Greenfield for District 5, take away that much District 5 so that then District 5 can take away some of District 6 to the south. It's projected that it'll likely be like that, so I don't know.
It'll be interesting. I want to ask, because I want to ask this now, because I don't want to forget to ask about it, but as you know, there are some illegal aliens that are being transported into our cities, and they're housed in the hotels and given food, and then goodbye, and they bust them out different places and everything. Is that happening in Mesa?
Yeah, it is. There's some, I've heard some talk of it happening out in Apache Junction area, which
Close enough.
is, well, parts of Apache Junction are actually Mesa boundaries, so it's Apache Junction's kind of a odd place. It's not really its own city, but it kind of is, but not really.
It's funky town.
Yes,
funky town.
Like
it's
you go out there, it's like a weird amalgam of all kinds of neighborhoods.
Depending on where you're standing, you might be actually Mesa city limits. You might be Maricopa County is all. It just it's an odd
Adventureland.
Yeah.
So the reason I'm asking you is because it's a very big concern. In fact, usually we have Patty Castillo Porter on because she's been coordinating some demonstrations for the ones in Chandler, Ahwatukee area, and she's understood. It was explained to her that every 72 hours they bring in people and then they take them away. They bring in a new batch, and so I wanted to ask.
Well, they take away the ones that stuck around.
Maybe. What's your take on that? Is there anything that you can do? I mean, it's right in your city happening and so close.
It is such a horrible security boondoggle. It's a mess. The whole southern border right now is such a mess. It's being so horribly managed by an administration that was so committed to saying that everything Trump did was wrong. People have asked me, are you a Trumpster or not? And the honest answer I give is, the vast majority of the actual things Trump did, I support. And he had great results. Yes. He should have a Nobel Peace Prize for the work he did in the Middle East, for crying out loud. He brokered a deal where several very Arab countries signed peace treaties with Israel. And nobody believed that could happen. He should have a Nobel Peace Prize. So he did so many amazing things. He could not keep his mouth shut. But that did serve a purpose.
I agree.
And it put a spotlight on the just how biased the media actually is. And because he was the first one that stood up, and instead of playing by the media's rules, he stood up and called him out on it. And that's really why they hated him, because he's like, no, you guys are leftist hacks. You're not reporting the truth. You're reporting everything with a spin. And they lost their minds that somebody would actually point that out.
I wanted to ask you, it sounds like you're undecided on the whole Trumpster thing, which is cool. But keep in mind that anyone who Trump endorsed won their election.
Right.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And so, I mean,
honestly,
maybe you're not in a position right now to declare that, but I'm just throwing that out there as a reminder, just a little note. And then I do want to refer back to, excuse me, Alice, I do want to refer back to the issue at the border. Just since January, and this is from the Department of Homeland Security, over 1 million people, right, Alice? Over 1 million people have crossed and been processed since January 1st. For what this means is for ICE and the Border Patrol is that they're processing about 5,500 people per day.
Yeah.
What is that like, do you think, David?
It's insane. It. How can you not call that an invasion at our southern border at this point? How can you not? The numbers are so astronomical. It's never been anywhere close to this ever. It's ridiculous. I do think it's funny though, or telling, not really funny, but telling, that if you're from Central America, they say come on over. If you're from Cuba, no. Because most Cubans that come over vote Republican, and so they're telling Cubans, no, you can't come over. You have to seek amnesty from Cuba. Anyone else can walk on across, but not
Syria.
Yeah,
and all the stands out there in the Middle East.
Yeah,
right. All the stands. Yeah, right. All right, so we're coming up on another break.
Okay,
we've got to take a hard break and we'll come back. We have much more to talk about with David Miles, who's running for the City Council of Mesa, and I'm Alice Lara, aquí con
Martin Chili Bean.
Oh, I was hoping you would say that. Yeah, we're going back. Yeah. And we'll be right back with more of the Chips and Salsa show here on Central City Radio, Talk Central Phoenix. Stay with us for more guacan and talking.
Central Phoenix.
It's time for the Chips and Salsa show. Vámonos.
I love Chips and Salsa. Can I listen too?
You got it. Take it away. Eso.
We love Chips and Salsa, and yes, you can listen too. And that's one of my favorite rejoiners. My great, well, he's not so little anymore. He's like getting close to 12, Zachary. But he did that sounder for us a long time ago because he loves Chips and Salsa too. This is the Chips and Salsa show. It's our last segment. I'm Alice Lara here with special fill-in host
Martin Gonzalez.
You know what I miss? I miss the mariachis. Thank you for that memory. We have a wonderful guest, and it is David Miles. Do you go by David or Dave?
Yes.
Yes, both. Okay.
Yes.
David Miles.
Usually when I introduce myself, if I'm just saying my first name, I introduce myself as Dave, but it doesn't quite work with the last name. So it's always David Miles or Dave but I don't care.
There's more cachet with David Miles, it sounds like, right? It's
David
like
Miles.
David Miles, CEO of YouTube.
I agree. David Miles is running for City of Mesa City Council.
I'm not
District
a CEO, though. I'm just a working stiff.
And real quick, we want to talk about campaign money.
Yes. It's so there's been it's changing the way that people fund their campaigns these days. With the opening up of social media and crowdfunding, there's certain things used to kind of be necessary to run for office, even the smaller political or local offices like city council. And I was speaking to a local politician recently, and they told me I needed to just drop out of the race because there's no chance I could win because, and I quote, you're not rich and you don't have rich friends.
Wow.
Yeah, so I'm definitely not dropping out of the race.
It's making you work harder.
Oh,
the
so
underdog.
Much. So much harder.
I always bank on the underdog, don't you?
Well, I mean, a lot of surprises have happened.
Now we've got crowdfunding, and it's so easy to get a message out there in a quick little link. And if 1,000 people each donate $5, that's massive. You don't necessarily need those individual donors to write $1,000 checks so much anymore. If you have a few thousand people writing $5, $10 each, then you can fund a whole campaign. And so I would like to say out there to anybody who doesn't think you should have to be rich to run for a local office, who doesn't think that you have to have all the right connections, and that thinks that maybe working people could do a good job helping run their cities, then please log on to my site, log on to my Facebook page, my website, davidmiles4az.org. Go down to the click, hit donate, just $5, $10, whatever, and help me show that politician that that's not the only way to do things anymore.
And anyone can donate, right?
Anyone can donate.
Is there a maximum?
I'd have to look at the number. I think the maximum...
$1 million. No,
I think the maximum for an individual... I don't remember the exact, but it's around 2,500, I think. I should know it, but that just shows that I'm not really expecting to get the maximum from anybody. I will look that up.
Let me ask you this, and we didn't mean to put you on the spot, but let me ask you this. So, Alice, you can speak to this. The hard realities is that you need $2 million walking in to run for Congress, unless you're Mike Kelly and you got the pocketbook of the DNC who can drop $180 million in your campaign. What are the practicalities, though, of running for a city council level? 25,000, 100,000? What are you looking at?
For Mesa City Council, around 50,000. And I'm basing that off. So I'm going to run to replace Dave Luna. He's termed out. He can't run for re-election. His last election, he had, I think it was $47,000 before November 2nd, and it rose up, or 42,000, and then I think it was 49 before the November election.
Coincidentally, the amount that you need to run, as you have stated, is about what you earn in an income as a city council member.
Yeah, it's right. You're not making a lot of money as a city council.
No.
But I mean,
you wouldn't be able to live in the You wouldn't be able to live in the district that you live in based on that income.
No, you can. It'll give me a slight raise
or
over
mortgage,
what I'm making now, so.
food, car. I mean,
it'll be tough.
Respectfully differing. with you on that.
The average person.
Well, I mean, even at $60,000 income, a third of that is what, 20,000 divided by 12 months. That's about about $1,600 per month, and that is probably the average rent if on the low end for people who are just renting. We're not talking about mortgages. I'm just saying people who are renting. I'm thinking about the working class who are making their way up, right, or trying to make their way up.
Right. We didn't ask you. We didn't get to. Are you married, family, stuff like that? Your personal stuff.
I have a girlfriend.
Okay.
So.
No,
does she support you on this? Is she backing you on this? Was she your first signature?
You see my nice shirt?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. She made this.
This is a very nice shirt. You want to describe it?
Yeah, it's great. Well, why don't you stand up, camera, and turn around there? Oh, yeah, very nice.
So I jokingly refer to my design team sometimes, and also my social media team. It's all one person.
So what I like about it is that there is a red, white, and blue theme, of course, that we like.
That was definitely
in there, there's a shield, which kind of leads me to law enforcement as well. Let me ask you a question, if I may. So understanding that politics is the mechanics of power, and understanding that the power is derived from the people, by the people. Yep. What do you hope to do or accomplish with that power that may be bestowed upon you should you win the election?
So a lot of what I want to do is to keep as little power as possible for myself and for the city council, the city government, state government, federal government. I don't believe that in big government that it puts their hand in everything. And a lot of that, it's funny because I was thinking, the left has a lot of ideas, and when you really look at it, some of the ideas are really great ideas until you add actual people to them, and then they fall apart.
I'm sorry I'm laughing, but it rings true, and that's why I'm laughing.
It's the truth. And the funny thing is, if you were to just ask a whole bunch of people, Democrat, Republican, Independent, how much do you trust just politicians in general? I'm scale 1 to 10. I'm guessing your average is going to be below 5. It's going to be low. But then they're talking about taking all this power and giving it to the government. Well, who runs the government? You're giving it to the politicians you don't trust. That's a horrible idea. And when we're looking at like free speech issues, the left pushes really hard on hate speech. Right now it's disinformation. Or no, I'm sorry, misinformation. They change a letter in order to change the meaning.
Actually, you're not too far off base, because the distinction is that disinformation is too much information versus misinformation, right? Which is something completely different.
Yeah.
And so it's the sheer volume of bad information is the disinformation.
But like, so they're trying to cram down all these censorship issues and whatnot, and next time you have one of your Democratic friends trying to say that the government needs to take control of this, ask them like, hey, politicians run it. If the Republicans win next time, are you good with them having that control over you?
Good question. I can't believe it. We're out of time. David Miles running for the City of Mesa City Council. Thank you for coming. District 5. Come back, please. I'm Alice Lara here with
Martin Gonzalez. Y saludos para todos, because I had to throw in a little Espanol. You know me, I can't.
Of course. And thank you for coming in. Muchas gracias. I hope you come back and fill in again, because we love having you here.
My pleasure.
Please be back here next Tuesday. Don Jorge is supposed to be back, and we'll be back with the Chips and Salsa Show, Central City Radio, Talk Central Phoenix, Tuesday, 4 p.m. Go on, my friends.
When you need to know, this is Talk Central, a Central City radio station.
A battle over roads, bridges, and internet access. I'm Rich Dennison in Fox News. Senate Republicans say they want to hold off on tomorrow's planned procedural vote on a large infrastructure package.